have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day, folks. How are you? Hope you're having a good week and you're not missing me too badly from last night. I know there's a few people who've rung me to see if I was okay. I am okay. I was about to go and do a show last night, but I wound up getting a phone call from, let's just say somebody who needed a long chat. And that's essentially what wound up happening for a great deal of time last night. So I apologize for that. I was going to come in this morning and have a bit of a show, but then life, the universe, and everything gets in the way, as these things tend to do, and we plod along. So I hope you managed to get your day sorted much better than I probably did. Have you been having a look at the gold and silver markets? If you have, you're probably, yes, not looking terribly flash at the moment, all down at $114. When I say not looking all flash, that's pretty flash compared to what it was. And if we look back over the course of 12 months or so, it's still almost 3 times what it was a year ago. So don't go and get too upset just yet. If you want to get upset about something, get upset about the rate increases that the RBA are now going to lumber upon you. I think our interest rates are going up to 4.1%. God help you, those of you who have a mortgage. I feel for you desperately, and I don't know how or what it is that we can do to help, but we are going to try in some way, shape, or form. Hasn't come up on the YouTube channel yet, says 5363. I hope it has by now. That's all I can say to that, but congratulations on being first up in the room. Andrew D. Smith. I love we're getting middle names now too. Good on you, dude. And the Lady Rider, third in the house, all very quickly together though. Deb, how wonderful you are, the lovely Deb Shippard. I trust you've had a little bit of rain in your part of the world too. I have received some information from our South Australian farmer, and Pete and Pinaroo tells me that they've had over 20 mil. It's been good, steady rain. It's been great for the crops, great for the big paddock, he calls it. And all things going with a smile in his part of South Australia at any rate, which is normally exceptionally dry. Gomez is in the house. So too is the black sheep from Taswegialand. He has been sending me stuff all day. We've had a couple of interesting conversations. There is much to talk about, but that won't be in this show because I've got to get my head all the way around it to hope to hell you can get your head around it. But there is a fair bit to it. What there is in the house, he has been sending me harmonica lessons. Yes, I am practicing. And guess what? I can bend a note. That's the only note I can bend. But look out, on the cruise, there may well be rhythm and other notes played. I am saying maybe. There's no guarantees. But he did send me past the duchy from the left-hand side and told me I should boogie along with that today. With this. I haven't figured it out yet, but we'll give it a go at some point. God help you all. Judith, lovely to have you in. Tony, what a marvellous man you are. Pete is in the house. There he is, all the way from Pinaroo. The lovely Angie Morley is in the house. So too is the Silver Fox, who I hope your paddocks are getting plenty of rain and you don't have to be out there playing with your pivot, if that's a nice way to put it. I'm just having a bit of a scan down to see what you're all saying tonight, because it's been so long since I've actually caught up with a chat, which is quite remiss of me. Gomez, are you letting us in on a little bit too much? Or are you looking for hints and cheats around it? Or aren't you 18 yet and you haven't been able to pass the facial recognition? I mean, that's the question. Or is it, in fact, your face they're looking to recognize? I don't know how the porn sites work. Maybe you identify showing something else. Possible. Not likely, but possible. G'day, Aussie Sue God. Love you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on the show, folks, if you are watching that right now. And certainly drop a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. And if you would like to make a comment on tonight's show, because Lordy knows there is going to be a bit you can make a comment on. In fact, while I'm lining up the rest of the show, why don't you have a little watch of this? You might be able to make a comment on this.
I see you see me. What for you look for me? Dead? Would I be able to drink a cup of coffee if I was dead? I'd need 5 fingers to hold the cup. The same number of bombs it took to kill that Iranian tea drinker. 5 Israeli bombs. That is all. I drink to his death. Israelis, well, we bomb, bomb. Bomb, he's dead. Supreme Leader compound, bomb, he's dead. Iranian Navy, we bomb, he's dead. Iranian missile silos, we bomb. Iranian drones, we bomb. If you ask me, well, we miss a few just to add a little realism, and then we bomb. Iranian girls' school, well, we ask our American friends, and guess what? Bomb. You see, you ask, you get. He's very good. He's very good.
That's what happens when you get a bored mind, and somebody threw me this afternoon. If you haven't seen it, Benjamin Netanyahu has appeared on and off in media over the last 10 days, but nobody's sure it's actually been him. One of these media appearances, he had 6 fingers on each hand. Clearly, there was a bit of an issue there with that, and I think that little bit of vision of him in a coffee shop somewhere at an airbase is also faked, and we'll talk about that in just a minute too. But there are a lot of stories coming out of various places. None of them are especially credible, and certainly none of them have been confirmed that Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife and his daughter, I'm not sure if he has sons, didn't even know he had a daughter, but reports are that they're all dead. Funnily enough, there was also a report that he'd lost a leg, which is very similar to the report that came out about the Ayatollah's son when they killed the Ayatollah. And apparently the new Ayatollah is injured and hopping away on one leg. Netanyahu's story was the same. However, some smarter people than me have been able to track aircraft leaving Israel, and they have tracked one of Netanyahu's known aircraft, bearing in mind he's got government access to aircraft, VIP aircraft, so they know which ones they are. That flew out of Israel a few days ago and flew to Germany, to a hospital base there in Germany, which I'm also hearing news from saying it's full, and they are requiring and putting out indeed calls for blood donations on that German base, which is the largest American base in Europe from memory. So huge hospital there too. So if Netanyahu is still alive and they can't do much more for him in Israel, which surprises me because there are some of the best doctors in the world there, they've sent him off to Germany, or what's left of him. And I guess we'll figure all that out at a later time. There has been some rather interesting things about that particular bit of footage, which I can show you here without my stupid little voiceover to it. Now, this is Bibi Netanyahu supposedly caught in a bakery/coffee shop. They are saying that it was on a base, a US base or an Israeli base somewhere inside of Israel, and dare say he's being asked about his 6 fingers there. So he's proving he's got 5 and yada, yada, yada. This is all in Yiddish. That's why I haven't given you the audio file for it, because it's absolutely painful to listen to. But there are some rather interesting things that I will draw your attention to it. And maybe you've spotted it, maybe you've seen this already. But it is a very interesting little video. From the perspective of, this is a man who is supposedly at war with Iran, and Iran has had no problem so far firing ballistic missiles into Tel Aviv and all parts of Israel. And we're meant to believe that he's 3 stories up in a coffee shop on an American base or an Israeli military base there somewhere. Don't know that that is the case. But there is a little bit of info in that video which you may or may not have seen. Now, watch what happens with Bibi Netanyahu's pocket here. Okay, did you notice it? Let's watch it again slowly. The pocket joins, the pocket is activated. The pocket actually slides up his hand. He doesn't slide his hand into the pocket. It goes the other way. Now, do you think that that's a little weird? I think that that's significantly weird. Have another look. I probably could have slowed this down a bit further, but it's quite weird to see the way that the pocket jumps from one point to the next, and it's not his hand pushing it through. So that raises some stories about AI and the propaganda that we're being fed on so many levels at the moment. We are copying it left and right, particularly regarding this inverted commas war. And are you starting to notice, the normies around you starting to notice that this war particularly seems to have a lot of, or a great lack of information for a society that is armed with video and audio cameras 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? How many of the normies around you are starting to say, gee, I remember seeing the guns and the missiles and the bombs go off in Baghdad live. We had people, newsmen, sitting on top of hotels, ducking with helmets on and watching missiles fly over their head and blow up buildings. We were watching low-flying planes and strafing and all that. That was in 1991. And progressively over the years, at various different points, we have seen some very serious, point of view camera work from civilians and military people on the ground. And now we get to this war. Well, if nobody's asking, they should be, because we are not seeing anything really unless the Israeli and Western media want you to see it. Now, okay, I can understand they want to curtail, for reasons of operational secrecy, they want to curtail live pictures coming out of wherever it is they're bombing, because it gives the people they're bombing just as much information as it gives the ones doing the bombing. So to a point, I understand why they don't want that happening while they are bombing. But yeah, as Shane has said here, they're threatening to lock people up. And in Dubai's case, the fine is 220,000 Australian dollars. If you film, you don't even have to film the attack or the aftermath of the attack. You just have to film the wreckage. Walking past a shop that maybe you used to go in and buy your gold at, or sit on the golden chair and get your gold fingernails polished. Maybe that's not there anymore, and maybe you took a video of it. You are not allowed to share it. Jail or a very, very significant fine. Now, in Iran, we are told that people want to share and that there is limited internet availability to get anything out. I'm also told that Starlink put over 6,000 units, extra units, into the country before the bombing started. And one can only imagine they turned those units off shortly thereafter, because they're not being used to transmit anything out of Iran either. Now, Iran is a very, 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 very big country, all of which is filled with sand dunes, desert, camels, sand, desert, and camel jockeys, or herders, not jockeys, beg your pardon. So it's a bit difficult to understand where the 6,000 internet is, well, there you go. Ashley's onto it. Closed down intentionally. Yes. Isn't it lovely the way that Elon Musk would supply 6,000 new Starlink units into Iran and then turn the system off just when the world needs it most? The world needs to see what's happening. Is Tehran being turned into Gaza? And equally, the world is just as, well, maybe it's not as interested actually, but there is an element of interest to see whether or not Tel Aviv and Jerusalem have been turned into Gaza. There have been a lot of memes going around over the last week or so, memes with a barb, and I'm not sure that they're the memes with a barb, at least. I'm not sure that they aren't really hurting. A lot of those memes include pretty interesting attempts at trying to prove or disprove certain bits of propaganda that are being put out. And we'll try and attempt to get to some of those in the not too distant future if I can stop raving long enough. The pressure that's being brought to bear on the Straits of Hormuz, with all of the world supposedly being very upset and beyond themselves with grief that the straits are closed and nothing good is happening. Okay, all the green or all the red dots, I beg your pardon, are tankers, and the Straits of Hormuz are this little gap here, right in here. Now, between the lands, it's about 26 kilometers, but because these ships, when they go in and out, are pulling huge drafts, 14 meters, 20 meters, they've got to go out through a channel, which is only 2 kilometers wide, but it is a very deep channel. So that's why there is a limited area for naval support ships or indeed cargo ships to move. Now, would you like to have a look at how many cargo ships are sitting in there as well? They're all the green ones. Now, those cargo ships are picking up or dropping off various different things at the ports all the way through the Gulf, including ports, as you can quite happily see here in Iran. There are a number of them that are tied up or very close to being tied up, which are carrying anything other than weapons, one assumes. So I want to make it fairly clear to people, given what's going on with our fuel in this country and how people are panicking that we are going to run out of fuel. And there are petrol stations now putting up signs saying they're out of fuel. They're limiting the amount of fuel that you can get until their next drop. Most, if not all, petrol stations that are doing that have been advised when their next drop will be, but the locals are still panicked about getting huge amounts of fuel. Now, go and get enough to get you through for a little while. Fill up your car, get a jerry can or two even. Don't go and get 1,000 litres of diesel when you've got, a four-cylinder diesel SUV that's never seen off-road in its life parked under the driveway. Don't do that. There are farmers that are going to need that diesel. There are trucks that are going to need that diesel. But when it comes to fuel shortages, I'll tell you folks, that's the least of our worries, because that map currently shows us the amount of cargo ships. I'll broaden it out to the whole world. That's every cargo ship that is currently listed on the International Shipping Register as being afloat, tied up, or in some way working on the land, on the sea. This is the look of them around Australia, and you can see the obvious tracks that these cargo vessels take. And if you look up here into where they go, they're heading into South Korea, into China, Japan, where presumably some of them then come down into Indonesia or down through the wider track through the Pacific to New Guinea and down our east coast. They circumvent Australia basically before going out again and heading up through Malaysia, yada, 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 yada. All of those ships require something called bunker oil. That's their fuel. And where does their fuel come from? Their fuel almost entirely comes out of here. So, those are just the cargo ships. But if we put in the tankers and we pull out the cargo ships, that is the relatively small amount of cargo ships that also require bunker oil to drive, to start their engines. And then here are the number of fuel chemical oil ships around Australia at the moment. So I don't want to put too fine a point on it. I don't want you all running out and being terribly terrified by it all. But we're going to run out of bunker oil in the cargo ships to bring everything to this country, probably before we're going to run out of the fuel to go to the shops to get whatever will be left on the shelves. That's what you should be considering. So rather than stocking up on 1,000 litres of diesel, because you literally will be all stocked up with no place to go, start thinking about using the money that you're doing yourself a disservice with by pouring it into voluminous amounts of fuel, unless you're a farmer or a primary producer that needs it. I understand. But if you're just doing this and keep it in your backyard, please don't. You would be much better helped by going and spending that money at your local independent grocery, your local fruit and veg seller, your local farmer, your paddock to plate farmer, and offering in conjunction with friends to maybe take a whole animal, a whole side of an animal, sheep, cow, whatever it turns out to be, beef or lamb, and stack your freezer. You might want to go to the supermarkets, not the big ones that are going to be robbing you off, but go to the ones that have been looking after you and get some stuff that you can sit on a shelf for a while. And if you have been in the prepper mode for years, I don't have to worry about me, don't have to worry about me, I've got tins of this and tins of that and bags of this and bags of that. I can tell you from some experience, that very recent experience, that even though you can have this stuff packed away, insulated, you think, inside plastic containers and all that sort of stuff, some of it still does go off. And just because it's in a can doesn't mean it won't go off. So go and check your stocks now while you can still replenish them. There is nothing worse than saying, I don't have to worry, I've got 3 big cartons full of packets of noodles or full of spaghetti or full of pasta, and I don't have to worry about it. And then you go out and discover that somebody one day, while bouncing around inside your shed, lifted the lid to find out what was in it, didn't put it back on, and a rat family made their life in there for the last 2 years. All of a sudden, you don't have any spaghetti left, but you've got, a lot of very fat rats and a mess you've got to clean up. So be aware of that sort of stuff. If you haven't gone and checked your stocks, if you've been prepping for a while, I encourage you urgently to go out and check them out. Fuel prices roaming around the country at the moment, and there you go. That's good. Got enough food for 12 months. That's awesome. We apparently are anti-vaxxers and hoarders, of course. Petrol at $3 a litre is, in fact, the case in some places. But I'll tell you where it's not $3 a litre, folks. Right here, it's $2.62.9 for diesel. And where is that? Well, to get it that cheap, you're going to need to go to Lakelands, which is, I think it's not far from Cooktown. But there you go, far north Queensland, and it's $2.69 when you can drive down here in the corner of southeast Queensland and pay all of that and probably a few cents more. I have seen it at $2.69. $2, yeah, 69.9, $2.70, if you like, in the southeast corner. I have been told of places where it is $3 a litre, and that is far western Queensland. Most of that will be out by now. It was $2.49 in Karoi yesterday, Sunflower. Thank you very much. Well, that's, compared to other places, still pretty reasonable. And petrol prices, I believe, are somewhere between the $2.15-16 range and $2.25-26 per litre is what I've seen around the place. So that'll keep everybody a little bit alive and entertained while you're trying to find somewhere decent to do a little bit of shopping for your fuel. Now, folks, propaganda we're talking about tonight. There's a video that I want to show you that has been used extensively over the weekend. Alternatively, it has been put up as the kill shots for the Iranian Ayatollah, the first Iranian Ayatollah, the guy that they got on the first day. I can tell you that if you believe that when you see this, you're wrong. You could immediately discount it because the first shots of this war were fired in the daytime. So this video clearly is shot at night. So it's not that video. Then the second story around it purports to be the ballistic shelling of a Netanyahu safe space, if you like, in Tel Aviv, a government-controlled bunker that was hit, and this was claimed to be the missile shots that killed Netanyahu and his family. Now, you've heard of a double tap in killing terms, 2 shots. Well, this is, I guess, in missile terms, a triple shot. So except that wasn't the shot that got Netanyahu, if indeed a shot got Netanyahu. As part of everything you're going to have to do pretty much these days, if you are working online, if you are looking at social media, and if you see something that is being touted as news, no, not 3 echoes, Tony. They were there. I probably cut the thing short. The video was taken from a long way away. That's because it was taken from Israel looking into Gaza a couple of years ago. That was Israeli missiles hitting Hamas positions in Gaza, I think in 2022. But that same video now is being touted as the kill shot for Netanyahu and or the shot for the Ayatollah, which it clearly can't be because the Ayatollah was killed about 10 o'clock in the morning, their time, daylight time. And I don't know if they were saving time or not, but that's how it all played out. So beware, there is so much propaganda being put forward at the moment. And ask yourself, or ask the normies around you, do you know how many casualties there have been on either side? On the US-Israeli side or on the Iranian side? I mean, we've all heard about the 162 dead schoolgirls that the American missiles hit, which is absolutely tragic, horrendous, and extremely poor intelligence work. extremely poor. Do I think the Americans actively targeted 162 children? No, I don't. And if you actually believe that Trump or any of the US military, I think, who would control targeting, would target 62 or 162 Iranian schoolgirls, then I think you've got a screw loose. What we have learned over the last 5 days is that AI has been let loose on this battlefield to locate, assess, target, and carry out attacks on elements that it independently sees as a danger to the outcome of any mission. And while it's probably been doing this for a very long time, for the first time, it has been allowed to work absolutely autonomously. So if it decides it wants to launch rockets at a compound that intelligence for the last 5 years has been saying is an Iranian special guard training camp or area where recruits are taken, put through training exercises, they eat, sleep, and are educated there before being put out into whatever group they go into. And right tacked at the very end, there is a little piece of information that says, oh, they might have moved out and turned it into a school. The AI looks at everything, and on the balance of probabilities, it would appear has made a decision to target the school regardless. Now, the Americans are between a rock and a hard place. There is no denying that it was one of their weapons that hit that school. Equally hard to deny is the fact that to fire an American weapon, some authority from someone has had to be shown. But this particular attack had no human authority. No human, quite likely, had cast their eye over it in any way and approved or disapproved of the strike. So now the Americans are between a rock and a very hard place. Did we actively target a school? No, we didn't. Our computer did. Are you actively letting your computer target whatever the hell it likes without humans checking it? Yes. And that's the hard truth I think the Americans are having a bit of a hard time coming out and telling the world about at the moment. Missile and AI targeting of missiles was always on the cards. If you've been playing a video game that is war orientated, and let's just name one of them, Call of Duty, for the last 10 years or more, then you have been shown what sort of technology is available. Satellite tracking, pictures, scans, drones that go in and fly around the building you're about to assault, all that sort of stuff. It's not the thing of video games. It's the thing of mind games, mind programming. Skynet looking for Sarah Connor. We are seeing so many examples of Skynet. So many examples of Skynet. The Chinese, I've shown you evidence of their huge leaps in robotic technology, in robotic movement. The dancing, which was disguised as dancing, but it is in fact kung fu or various other martial arts put into robotic form. Bruce Lee. I wonder how when we're going to see that happen. There'll no doubt be some clever AI person who can bring a robot and Bruce Lee together at some point. They've got him doing a whole heap of other things on the internet, and people believe he actually did it. Don't believe any of those little tricks you see him doing on game shows at the moment. They're all AI as well. And this is why our discernment matters. We've got to be able to think independently. We've got to be able to if we can't think independently, we lose so much of ourselves. You will lose your humor. You will lose your ability to think funny, to see things in a funny way. You'll definitely, as Australians, lose your ability to make a joke out of anything. And just between you, me, and the gatepost, that would be a very bad thing, because Vince and I have great plans for people who are creative and wanting to think of things. We're not going to tell you anything about them too much tonight, other than to say, I think many of you send me memes, some of which appear at the front and at the back of the show. I am forever looking for memes. So if you are a memer, I'm making words up now, then please email me, carl@vofhq.com. It turns out that we have a couple of memers amongst us, and Vincenzo turns out to be one of them. I particularly like the way he's put together the Flintstones car. He's done a couple of iterations of that, and I've loaded up version 1. There are a couple of others. In fact, here's a different version. Fuel shortage? No worries, mate. That's pretty much exactly where we're going to be up to, unless you can shove a battery up your clacker and keep going. But while I was having a conversation to somebody the other day about, do you know anybody that comes up with memes and sends them around and has had much success with them? And while I was having literally that long a conversation with this person, my email went ding and this turned up. Now, that's the kind of creativity I need in my life. So if you're a bit of a memer and you're fast, you can put funny words to stupid pictures, then Vince and I want to hear from you. We are very excited about something, and you could play a magnificent role in that at the very least. Well, I won't tell you at the very least because it'll be giving things away. But we would love you to be part of this. So also helps if you send memes to us. Always up for good memes. As you know, I try and spread them around, and I'm the ending one tonight should be interesting for a variety of reasons. So yes, folks, keep an eye on what's going on with memes. And if you are a memer or you know someone who is, then please contact me, carl@vofhq.com, or you could contact Vincenzo at the same place. And we should be able to obviously reach out, make beautiful contact with you, and give you half an idea of what we are planning in the not too distant future. And if you are in the southeast corner of Queensland, you might be able to play a role in that. Yes, a meme coin. Write that down, Vince. I reckon that's an idea. A meme coin would be a bloody great idea. There are a few memey things that we could do, but I know that you lot, very creative as you are, we don't care whether. Look, if there is a donkey meme, I think we should put a prize up for good donkey memes. And Sandy and Baz will probably have 100,000 of them stored away, but good donkey meme would work out well. I think that would be pretty cool. Before we go tonight, one last little chat about what's going on with media in Australia and around the world. There's a lot of distractions going on at the moment with big names that you know, like Tucker Carlson, and names like Jackie O and Kyle Sandilands, a little bit closer to home. It's interesting to watch what's happening to Tucker Carlson in America. They are currently demonizing him. And when I say they, I'm talking about the normal media that would be supportive of Tucker, because Tucker is not supportive of what the Trump administration is currently doing with Israel to Iran. And he asks some very reasonable, some very coherent and relevant questions of the administration and does not get any answers. It's just interesting to watch who has turned on him inside those trusted media circles that Trump has supposedly been generating now for years. Because if you and I had to bet, we would have bet that Tucker Carlson was at the top of that list, not at the bottom of it. So watch this space. Tucker Carlson is telling an awful lot of truth about what's going on at the moment. We've always said this is a 5D war. 5D chess is something that Donald Trump has to know how to play, and I do believe he is playing it very, very well. Allies and enemies, enemies and allies, they seem to be changing on a daily basis, so watch this space. And as for Kyle and Jackie O, I don't expect any of you are particularly interested in their future. You wouldn't be core listeners of theirs, I'm sure. But there is an element of interest, I know, because I've been asked about it today on 3 or 4 occasions, and I'm getting some rather interesting messages or messengers from people asking for my insight to it a little bit. Midnight tonight is the end time for Kyle to show how he can remedy the situation with ARN, and ARN, the Australian Radio Network, have until midnight to reinstate or not Kyle. It's pretty clear that Kyle will not be back on the air tomorrow, and nor will Jackie O. This will now go to court, as we always knew it was going to do. It depends. In fact, you'll see some big headlines at the moment. Oh, Kyle speaks out. Well, all Kyle has done when he's speaking out is saying, I can't speak out, guys. It's, all in the hands of the lawyers. Because if he speaks out, he damages his case. So he can't really say anything at the moment other than I can't say anything. Now, in theory, all that ends at midnight. The gag comes off and he can say whatever he likes. If he wants to get back on the air, he's going to need to say nothing at all, or anything he does say is going to need to be very conciliatory. That's not going to happen. I have heard, and it's not at all beyond the realms of possibility, that there have been meetings held with certain individuals in Sydney, one of whom just bought the Channel 9 network's radio interests recently, meetings with Kyle in public. Now, Kyle would be a free agent in theory if ARN pay out his and Jackie O's contract, and this is where it also gets messy. Their contracts are separate. They're for the same sorts of things, a $6 million a year base salary, plus $4 million worth of shares and bonuses based on the fact that they raise the share price and they hit sales targets and all that sort of thing. Well, they certainly weren't hitting the sales targets, and they were not raising the share price. In fact, the share price of the company was going absolutely the opposite direction and in free fall, if you like. This is one of, if not the largest radio network in Australia, and this huge deal touted a few years ago with Kyle and Jackie O signing a 10-year, $200 million deal, $100 million a year between each of them, for each of them, over 10 years, was touted as clearly the biggest deal in Australian radio history, one of the biggest in global radio history. And those of us in the know knew it was never going to work, never going to go well, because there were plans to ship that show out into certain markets around the country that would never accept it. And they've tried doing that in Melbourne, and it was never accepted. What's that done to the share price? Well, it's knocked 40% of the share value out of it. The radio station salespeople are fighting a bunch of people who are called the Mad Witches or something like that, who have taken an extreme dislike to Kyle and anything that he does in that show. and then target any advertisers they hear during the ad breaks in those shows. And they've been very effective. They've targeted a huge number of businesses and effectively stopped them. Well, pardon me. Dry throat again. Sorry, pushed the wrong button. Getting a dry throat again. Pardon me. All right, so the share price has gone down. The sales revenue has gone down tremendously. ARN's overall value has plummeted. Should Kyle and Jackie O leave, they're not immediately going to recover much, although some of those advertisers will return. But then they don't have any rating or rateable shows for them to return to. Not a big problem. ARN will always get past it, but they have committed hundreds of millions of dollars to this whole exercise. Heads are going to have to roll. The board is not going to be very pleased, and nor are the shareholders. And this afternoon, I am led to believe that an offer might be put on the table by a number of interested parties to buy ARN from its shareholders, to turn it private, and then whoever owned it could do whatever the hell they wanted with it. I wonder who might have the money to go and do that. Certainly not Kyle and Jackie O, but given that contract and the fact that ARN could be then made to honour that contract, Kyle, being a lead shareholder, if that were the way it was going, would then need to potentially curtail the kind of content that they've been putting out that has been so objectionable, and would necessarily have to try and find a way to be able to roll that show out on a national basis so that they could sack the breakfast shows in Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, and potentially Perth. They could also look at their regional centres where they would love to not have to pay regional breakfast and drive announcers as well. So interesting times. So expect more announcements tomorrow morning, but I think they will be that we're going to court. If there is an announcement of a settlement from ARN, it will be we've decided to pay Kyle and Jackie O out. I believe the offer on the table is $40 million spread over 3 or 4 years. And the deal includes a segment that says you will not be allowed to broadcast through any radio network, any podcast, anything for the duration of that period. So 3 or 4 years, whatever it is, for the $30 or $40 million that they're being offered to walk away from them. And they are not allowed to start up in opposition, essentially, to anything ARN does. Will that work? Depends on the strength of the contracts that Kyle holds and that Jackie O holds. Kyle's contract is bloody near waterproof. I mean, this is really the only way they could have got him. Bringing the industry into disrepute, bringing the station into disrepute wasn't really going to work. They needed to get him on an HR matter so they don't have to pay him out. And I don't think they've got him. I think that they're going to have a lot of questions to answer, both from a civil lawsuit perspective from Kyle and Jackie O, and I think the Australian Stock Exchange is going to ask the company some very, very serious questions about their announcement that Jackie O has resigned and torn up her contract with the network, or that her contract was torn up. Because right now, Jackie O is quite vehemently saying, I never resigned. I never said I wasn't going back. In the background of all of this that very few people are talking about, but there was a story somewhere today, is the story about Jackie's manager. Her name is Gemma, and Gemma has been with Jackie as a manager since 2022. She is her best friend, and her best friend has wanted to get Jackie into all sorts of new businesses, one of which is called Besties, and they had the woman with the goopy vagina. What's her name? Goopy. Can't remember her name. They had her come out, movie star. Don't know, everybody got to have a smell or a taste. I'm not quite sure. It was a big event. You got paid $3,000 or something to be able to sit in a chair and smell Gwyneth Paltrow's goopy vagina. Anyway, Meghan Markle is apparently coming out and being part of the next Besties little event. Tickets for that slightly less than for Gwyneth Paltrow, and well, guess everybody gets to keep their knickers on at this one because it is Meghan Markle after all, the Duchess of Sussex. But they're $2,600 for those tickets if you'd like to be part of it. They would encourage you, as many of you as possible, to please go along to that, because it also appears that Jackie's manager, Gemma, has filed. Well, the company is in liquidation and is now under management by a liquidator because she can't repay the $788,000 that she owes, mostly to the tax department. When going through the books, there does appear to be a lot of random cash deposits and weird things coming from friends. The only friend who's been able to hand out large amounts of cash like this that she hangs out with has been Jackie O. And recently, Jackie O has said, I'm moving away from that company, the Besties thing and all that. But, yeah, all good. You know, I have an interest in it, but none of you give a shit. Thank you, Paul. Well, thank you for indulging me, if that's the way you don't. And if you don't like it being indulged that way, then I don't know. There's plenty of other things you could go and do at this time of night. So, you know, you could go off and do them. Anyway, South Australian voting, Vince. Yes, we will talk about that and end it. South Australian voting is very important. You must go out and vote. Go and do it this weekend. The vote or the election is Saturday. And if you are planning on voting for One Nation, their how to vote card is a little bit different to what you might be expecting. It only has vote 1 for One Nation. Put them first. Vote number 1 for One Nation, and then leave the rest up to you. That's their suggestion. So they will have vote 1 and a whole heap of empty boxes. That's because they want you to choose where your preferences go, not the party to choose where your preferences go. So Vince, I know, has been very active in helping people understand how preferential voting works. He hasn't used marbles. He's used pieces of paper. I'm led to believe not one of them turned into a paper plane and flew away. However, if you want to go and check it out, he has got a video of the whole thing that he's putting up on FBN Media on our YouTube channel there. And people in South Australia, be aware of how preferential voting works and make sure you get your preferences to work the way you want them to work for you. Don't rely on the Liberal Party preferences or the Labor Party how to vote card to show you how to vote. And yes, I know that means that you've got to do a little bit more thinking about who you're going to vote for. God knows you might want to learn a little bit more about who's actually standing. And Vince, God love him, has been doing the best he can, trying to interview as many candidates as would withstand his extreme scrut. And that's scrut, not scrot, extreme scrut, and testing, probing questions. I think he's got half a dozen or so. And thank you to all and sundry who've been involved. Of course, nobody from the Labor Party ordained to speak to him because, well, why would they? They're far too busy talking to the brown paper bag makers, I'm pretty confident, a bit like the Liberal Party. A lot of the One Nation people who've stood up in South Australia, and bear in mind, there is somebody from One Nation standing in every seat in the South Australian election. So you will not be short of someone to vote for to show your support of, or for those of us that don't normally vote, to show your abject disapproval of. If you vote for One Nation, it's a vote of disapproval for the uni parties more than anything else. And you really want that vote registered? Well, the best way to register it, I guess, is with One Nation or one of those other parties that is going to preference something different to what we've got at the moment. One Nation will show the rig on all voting days. Should be a good show in South Australia. Yep, I reckon it will be. I believe they've got a very strong showing. The entire country is watching with great anticipation how this vote goes. It doesn't matter. Nobody is expecting. I don't think anybody is expecting One Nation to flood to power and automatically become the leaders of. I should have stopped that. I don't think anybody is expecting them to become the leaders of the parliament in South Australia, the government formed. I think One Nation, if they are realistic, are going to say we would be happy with one seat. We would be overjoyed with 2. We would be blown away with 3. And if there were more, then hallelujah. The one that they would be aiming for and most happy to get would be Cory Bernardi into the Senate. But what can one Cory Bernardi do in a Senate filled by the Uni Party? So I hope South Australians give the rest of Australia the opportunity for hope. Because I think if we see a resounding successful vote for One Nation, where they do wind up with 2 or more seats, because trust me, getting 2 or more is a huge win and something all Australians should be celebrating, if only for the fact that the duopoly of ownership of the country seems to have been broken, or at least has a chink in its armor. And if One Nation are strong enough, are smart enough, are able enough over the next 2 years, they'll be able to wriggle that chink in South Australia into a denuded set of armor across the country. And who knows, at the next federal election, should we choose to believe they actually work, you might get out and vote for One Nation then, and then we might have real change in this country. So give it a thought, particularly the non-vote. Well, the non-voters won't have registered and you won't be able to vote this weekend. But we've also got the vote coming up in Farrer in the border regions of Victoria and New South Wales for the seat vacated by the funeral director, and One Nation looking to have a very strong standing there too. Imagine how good that would be. It's been a strong Liberal area for many, many years, and the Liberal national parties have left those folks for dead. And I think the ideal opportunity for the people of Farrer is to kick some sand in the face of the major parties and install One Nation, give them the ability to put a second voice in the lower house and let them see what they can do in that lower house, this bloke and Barnaby Joyce, between now and the next election. With any luck, we might, well, come out with something surprising and pretty cool. All right. Gonna love you and leave you, folks. Have yourself a bloody good evening. There's probably 1,000 more things I could talk about tonight, but it's a bit heavy and a bit hard, and I don't want to be sounding like I'm Jewish bashing. I'm not bashing Jews. I don't ever want you to believe that I have something against Jews. I don't. I've got something against Zionists. And if we don't understand the difference between a Zionist and a Jew, then you're probably going to get pretty upset at some stages. And I don't want you getting upset for the wrong reasons. So between now and next time we chat, go away and learn the difference, or find out, so that you truly understand what a Zionist is And then when you feel you've got a grip on that, please look up Christian Zionist and try and get a grip on what that is as well. Because in the days, weeks, and months ahead, you're going to hear a lot of conversation. You are already hearing a lot of conversation about the Zionists, the Jewish Zionists, and yada, yada. Not just from me, but from international commentators looking in on Israel and what's going on there at the moment. As I was saying before, people aren't looking at Israel and saying, woe is Israel. They're looking at it and saying, well, you know, we sat back and watched what you did to Gaza. You didn't want us to do anything then. So what would you have us do now? Maybe it's a bit different. Maybe it's not. But learn the difference between what a Jew is and what a Zionist is. And it is a very big difference. Have yourself a bloody good night. Be safe on the roads. The dickheads are out there. Oh, the dickheads are out there. And before we go, I am going to show you exactly where they go to school. You can go to New Arrivals Driving School. Now, this one happens to be in Victoria, in Kingsville in Victoria. But these driving schools operate for free lessons. You've got to be over 21. You've got to have your learner's permit. You've got to be newly arrived migrants. And then you get to do all the theory for free and 2 free driving lessons. 2, count them, 2. Do I have to tell you there are dickheads on the road and to beware? Oof, I hope not.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?